Fred here, and welcome back to the Gear Obsession channel. In this episode, we will be taking a look at the Kershaw Shuffle, so stay tuned. I came across this knife at my local Walmart for the price of about $15. Now, this is model 3800, and the reason why that I'm sort of pointing that out is because there is another model of the Kershaw Shuffle, and that's the 8700. So we'll go ahead and go over the specs, and we'll also talk about the differences between the two models. This knife came in the ordinary Kershaw box, and again, just wanted to point out this is the 3800 right there. There was also a manual in there. By the way, this came in a bag, and I really like that it says congratulations on your purchase. You don't see that too often. It was something that used to be in manuals a lot years ago, but you don't really see that too much anymore. Anyway, this is a inexpensive EDC. That's its role. However, it's not just a knife, it is a multifunction tool because it has a couple of extras on it. So we'll go ahead and go over that and go over the specs. What you see here is a ordinary looking knife with this cutout here and this fancy little doodad back here. This is a bottle opener, and it seems like it's a pretty beefy bottle opener, which makes up part of the back strap here. And you also have a lanyard loop, a screwdriver, and an impact device all in one, in addition to a knife. So this is a liner lock. We'll go ahead and flip that open. You can see that lockup is pretty good right there, and that's right where you want it to be. It's completely behind the blade, but it has room to wear to the right, to your right there. So that's exactly where we want it to be. You can see that we have dual thumb studs for both left and right-handed folks. This is a reversible clip. You can see it's set up for tip-up carry, and you could go ahead and remove these two Torx screws and remove the clip to the other side, put Torx screws back on, and you're all set for left-handed carry, tip up. Let's talk about the blade a little bit more. Your blade is a drop point with a swedge. You have a 2/3 up the blade hollow grind, and the steel is 3 CR13 MOV. Now remember I said that there are two model numbers to this. Well, this is the 3800, and the 3800 uses the 3 CR13 MOV. That is a Chinese steel. It's equivalent to about 420 J2, which is not a terrific steel. Actually, it has decent anti-corrosion properties, but it's not the greatest steel out there. However, it is a good steel for the price of this knife, so I'm not going to complain about it. It seems to hold up well in other people's reviews. I've just gotten this knife, so I don't know. Now, there's also the 8700 model, and that has 8 CR13 MOV, and that steel is equivalent to AUS-8. So if you could get that model, and you're not paying more than $15, or 15 to $20, that's a pretty good deal. I'd jump on that. Let's move on to the handle. You can see that it has glass filled nylon type of scales with an interesting texture that's called K texture. Why? Because it has K's all over it. I'm assuming K stands for Kershaw. Other dimensions of this blade is the blade length, which is 2 3/8 inches or 6 centimeters. You have a closed length of 3 1/4 inches, which is 8.3 centimeters, and overall length when open is 5 5/8 inches, which is 14.3 centimeters. And it's actually pretty light. It's only 2.8 ounces. That's a very nice weight for an EDC. However, this is small, but It's a good enough size for a lot of people. So, you know, small EDC, inexpensive, that's its role. So if that's what you're looking for, this is definitely something to consider with all the other advantages it has at the price point. Now let's talk about ergonomics, because that's something else that's very unique about this blade. You have some finger grooves here, including a 50-50 choil forward here. When I say 50-50, I mean that the blade itself has 50%, and then your scales here or handle has the other 50%. Now when you hold it back here on the handle only, you can see that my hands or my fingers sort of are off the handle, almost 2 fingers off there, but I still feel like it's pretty secure because of those grooves there, so not too bad. I would not use this knife for stabbing. It's EDC, and it's probably a good skinner too by the shape of that blade there. Now you can see you could choke up on this blade and move your fingers up, and now you could do some fine work, some fine skinning. But now for a serious word of caution. There is no room at the end of this choil for error. You can see my finger is like right there on the edge of this knife, the razor edge of this knife. It's a little unnerving. There are some knives out there that do the same thing, but they add some extra jimping here, and maybe the shoulder of the blade is out here a little bit, so it has a little bit of a rise before it hits the edge. So that's just something to be aware of. So please be careful. So let's go ahead and move on to the test real quick. I have a piece of paper. I'm going to go ahead and see how sharp this is out of the box. And you can see that it is very sharp out of the box. So that's all you could ask for. Let's go ahead and look at Lockup while I have it open here. No up and down or side-to-side play, so Lockup is very good. And again, that liner is squarely behind the blade. However, there is room for it to wear to the right, which is the way that I like it. Let's go ahead and close this up and take a look at blade centering. And you can see that blade centering is very good. The last thing I'd like to check is the tip. Make sure that this thing had proper heat treatment and can stand up to some very minor stabbing. This is soft pine. We'll go ahead and carefully, I'm going to wrap my finger around the back here so I can't slip. And I'm not going to stab this too hard, but you can see it's in there pretty good. And I'm going to go ahead and rock this back and forth a little bit. I do this to make sure that the metal doesn't have a fundamental problem. It should be able to handle this soft pine with no problem. So let's go ahead and look at that point, and we can see that point is still there, no problem. One last thing before we move on is that this is a bead blasted blade, so there could be some corrosion problems. You know, being a very cheap steel, the last type of finish that you would want to put on this is like a bee blast or satin kind of finish, because that also sort of makes it more susceptible to corrosion and rust. So I would keep a fine coat of oil definitely on this. Not, you know, you would keep a fine coat of oil on any blade, so it doesn't matter, but just be aware. You have torque screws everywhere, including the pivot screw, so we could go ahead and adjust that with no problem. And last thing is that this clip does come all the way up here, so you got good conceal, deep carry. So the only thing that'll probably be sticking out is this little lanyard slash impact slash screw thingy right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the autofocus on because I want to show you one more thing before we wrap things up. I'm going to go ahead and bring this really close because number one, I could show you everything really close, so you could get a nice close flyby. And right here where my finger is, do you notice something? There's some imperfections right up here on the top of the blade, some little dings. It came like that. You could see the detent right there, that little hole right there, which is normal. Inside the blade, you could see there's some nylon washers right in there. You could also see the liner through the top. Again, let's look at that clip real quick. You can see that the clip does have some minor machining. You can see my fingers even have a lot of minor imperfections. One other thing is that because of this swedge right here, you don't have much of a flat area to clamp a sharpening device on. So that's something else to be aware of. So let's go ahead and rate this knife.
I forgot something. I forgot to do the retention test, so...
Okay, it passes the retention test, so that concludes the tests. Now, to rate this, I'm going to sort of give it 2 ratings because there's 2 different models, and the blade steel is very different between the 2. So, for this model, which is the 3800, I'm going to rate it 8 out of 10. And it loses some points for the minor imperfections and the blade steel. For the model number, and I can't even read it, it's 8700, where you get the 8CR13 MOV, right? 8CR13 MOV. I'm going to go ahead and give that a 9 out of 10. So it sort of gets 2 scores. But here's the deal. If you're looking for a lightweight, small EDC with all these extra functions, which is pretty cool, I urge you to take a look at the Kershaw Shuffle. It really is a really neat, nice little knife, and I do recommend it. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me here at the Gear Obsession channel. I really appreciate every friend, viewer, subscribers, wherever you are, and you. And I hope you have a great evening. Take care. Bye.